I know, Susan, as you were working on the new pieces and we were planning for the show, we had conversations at different points in time, and you were really looking at the evolution of your work as you were working again and adding layers to it and changing the scale. And there are three pieces in the show that really illustrate that evolution: Leaves, Leaves 2, and then Spring Fling, which was created several months after the first pair. If you can go through and talk about the process of seeing the evolution in these works and how they changed, that would be wonderful.
My previous work had not employed leaves as a motif. I was rather surprised to see them show up in leaves. I wasn't sure at first whether they were leaves or whether they were dolphins or just what they were, but I finally realized that they were actually leaves. And what was interesting to me was the fact that they were, again, in slow motion. They were obviously floating, but I was interested in generating that sense of motion rather than having them just appear to be laying flat on the paper by controlling the color shift in the background and playing with that so that there was some drama built in to what was a very busy scene. Leaves 2 is as much about emptiness as the original piece is about aggregate activity. But there again, the leaves everything was in very slow motion. And I once again wanted the drama of the color shift in the background to support the fact that these leaves, which appeared for their own reason, I still can't figure out where they came from, they wanted to be there, they wanted to be the way they were, and it was really an exercise in pure color and surface texture. Could I once again create some of the surface texture from my earlier work by building layers? And the last thing I did on Leaves 2 was the calligraphy, the animating lines and outlines that, again, was something that I had not done with previous work, which became a tool that I further explored in a lot of the new work. 6 months later, I was doing a lot of work in a square format, or almost square format, and decided that I wanted the challenge of, could I deliberately work with leaves within the context of a square format? Could I change the scale and have competition between scale change, leaf shape change, and have it all supported by the color shift in the background? And it was a very deliberate exercise on my part to take a concept that had developed of its own volition and then try to manipulate it. And the color shift was the hard part. The leaf placement and the leaf drawing was a joy. But here again, I'm using these calligraphic outlines to try to animate in some way these shapes and to have them rather ambiguous as to whether or not they were rising or falling in a puff of wind.